In A New Hope, a tired Jedi lifts his blade to meet a shadow from his past and vanishes into light. But what if he didn't? What if Obi-Wan Kenobi walked away from the Death Star alive? In this version, he does, and nothing turns out the same. Let's begin. The corridor is bright and hard. Red panels, footsteps. The breath behind the mask is a steel rasp. Blue meets red and throws sparks that die before they hit the floor. Darth Vader advances like a tide. Obi-Wan receives each stroke with economy, a circle against a hammer. The old general looks small against the armor that used to obey him. He is not small. Stormtroopers bunch behind the line. The hangar yawns. Luke stands near the ramp, hands shaking. The Falcon's turret swivels, as if it smells fear. Vader's blade lifts for the finishing cut. Luke thrusts out his hand without knowing why. The air shoves. Vader shifts his weight to keep balance. It's a heartbeat. Han takes it and rakes the troopers with fire. White armor tumbles. Sirens leap an octave. Obi-Wan decides. One last parry slides the red blade off his guard. He turns. He runs. Vader reaches with the Force. The hallway tightens. Kenobi slips through it like water through fingers. Chewbacca bellows. Hands grab robes. The ramp slams shut. The Falcon drops into the abyss and climbs. The cockpit is sweat and alarms. Stars stretch. No one speaks for a breath too long. Obi-Wan finally looks at Luke. "You touched the Force." Luke swallows. "I just pushed." "It pushed back," Obi-Wan says. His smile is tired. That is how it begins. Han doesn't look away from the board. "Someone tell it to keep beginning. They'll be back with friends." They make Yavin. The rebel base smells like metal and hope. In the briefing, the Death Star looks like an inevitability pretending to be a moon. Luke signs up because sitting still is impossible. When the pilots break, Obi-Wan stops him in the doorway and presses a small earpiece into his palm. "If your courage runs ahead of your calm," he says, "listen." The trench holds its breath. Fighters burn like paper in a storm. Vader hunts. Luke flies deeper and deeper into a tube that feels like a throat. The comm hisses. "Steady," Obi-Wan says. Not a ghost, not a memory, a living voice, even, patient. "Feel where the shot wants to go." Luke shuts off the computer. Noise falls away. Something opens. He fires. White light swells until it eats itself. Yavin erupts. The hangar becomes a roar. Metals shine. Chewbacca howls. Leia smiles in a way that means more than victory. Han's grin is a shield he doesn't admit he needs. Obi-Wan applauds and listens. Joy runs hot through the base. Far away, on a world of towers, anger coils and looks for a throat. In the Imperial Palace, darkness pretends to be dignity. A hooded figure sits with hands folded like talons at rest. Vader kneels. The battle station, the Emperor purrs, is gone. The galaxy now repeats the name Skywalker like a prayer it does not yet understand. He tilts his head. "There are reports that you hesitated before Kenobi, that you allowed him to live. Are my troopers liars?" Vader rises and gestures. Those troopers are dragged in. Fingers claw at air that refuses to go into lungs. Their boots drum, then stop. "They spoke weakness," Vader says. "Kenobi fled by trickery, not by my will." Palpatine smiles with the pleasure of a cut that fits. He senses a crack anyway. He files it away. "Then bring me the boy," he says softly, "and sweep the old man from the board." Vader bows. He turns. In the hollow, where a name used to be, something moves like a fish below ice and is gone. Back on Yavin, the celebrations taper to planning. After the ceremony, the Falcon warms for one more run. Obi-Wan rests a hand on Luke's shoulder. "It's time to meet an old friend." Han twists in the chair. "We doing a tour of all your old friends? Because my lucky number isn't that big." "Dagobah," Obi-Wan says. "Drop us. Then take the long way home." They come down through green rain and steam. The swamp holds everything it has ever swallowed and a few secrets more. A small shape pokes at the cargo with a crooked stick and steals a flashlight with delight. Luke reaches for his saber. Obi-Wan lays a hand on his wrist. "Master Yoda," he says. The little creature grins and scolds in one breath. "Late you are, Kenobi. Mud in your boots, Always with the mud." Luke's eyebrows argue with his face. "This is the Grand Master?" "By size," Yoda says. "Do you judge?" They sit in a hut that smells like roots and smoke. Time slows until it almost stops. Stories fall between the three like stones into a well. Names Luke has never heard wear faces he cannot imagine. Clone generals, lost temples, a young man with a braid who flew too close to daylight. Yoda's gaze drifts to Luke at last. "Son of Skywalker." he murmurs, and the words sound like a door opening in a house the galaxy forgot. He must be trained, Obi-Wan says, and the relief in his voice surprises him. Training begins before morning can decide what color it wants to be. Obi-Wan shows circles, lines, angles that make red miss by less than a breath. Sorisu turns defense into patience and patience into survival. Luke learns to be a door that opens only when it should. Yoda doesn't bother with blades at first. He teaches listening. He tells the boy to feel the stew bubble, the rootworm burrow, the fear under his own anger. The Force isn't a trick, he says. It is the shape of everything. Then Obi-Wan points at the stars. Elam, he says, choose your heart. The ice caves glitter like a cold sky fallen to earth. Luke wanders until wanting stops hurting. He finds a shard of green that hums against his palm as if it recognizes him from a dream. Obi-Wan meets him at the mouth of the cavern, pride drawing lines around his eyes. You've taken your step, he says. The next one will want to run. Back on Dagobah, the first snap hiss fills the hut with emerald light. Yoda nods. Luke keeps another hilt at his belt anyway. The blue blade is a history he refuses to hate. Outside the swamp, war keeps time. Messages reach them in bursts of static. Fleets shift. Governors tighten fists. The rebellion bleeds and laughs and keeps breathing. Amid those reports, something else arrives. Obi-Wan asks for a sealed room when he returns to a forward cell for supplies. Mon Mothma sits with her calm like a weapon. Leia sits with anger like a spine. In the duel, Obi-Wan says, I felt hesitation, not in his blade. Behind it, he swallows the memory. There may be a man left in the monster. Leia's mouth is a hard line. He destroyed Alderaan. I know. Luke studies his hands. He killed my aunt and uncle. I know. Obi-Wan repeats. I am not asking for forgiveness. I am telling you there might be a door. If there is, it is almost closed. Mon nods once. Keep the thought, she says. Keep it quiet. Meanwhile, we endure. Endurance lasts as long as it can. On an ice world that has not yet learned its name, the Empire arrives before hope can. Transports struggle into the sky. White becomes gray with heat. Obi-Wan and Luke climb into a two-seater and try to make a corridor for the slow. A black tie cuts through the storm with certainty. Obi-Wan toggles the channel open. Anakin, he says, listen to me. Space answers with fire. No voice, no pause. Precision as religion. Luke dives into rocks that don't forgive mistakes. They survive because stubbornness sometimes beats skill by a finger's width. Later, in a quiet room, Obi-Wan tells two young people the truth he hoped to deliver better. Darth Vader was Anakin Skywalker, he says. Your father. Leia doesn't move for a long time. She keeps still like someone balancing on a ledge. Luke sits down because his legs forget how to be legs. Bail Organa was my father, Leia manages. Bail was your father, Obi-Wan says. He loved you and made you who you are. Padme Amidala was your mother. Luke's eyes shine the way steel shines before it breaks. He killed Owen. He killed Beru. Obi-Wan lets silence do what words cannot. When breath returns, Leia stares at the floor and then at the old man. If this is true, she says, what do you want from us? Not his path, Obi-Wan answers. The one he should have walked. Weeks bleed into each other. Obi-Wan meditates until the hut feels like a bell. A voice arrives through distance and years like water through roots. Qui-Gon Jinn laughs softly. Dagobah, he whispers. There, the answer waits you already know. They go back to the swamp. Yoda is pleased and grumpy in equal measure. Training shifts. Luke runs with a log on his shoulders and a sister balanced above the log and 3 rocks floating around both. Leia curses the mud and then learns to ask it where to put her feet. Yoda talks of fear without shame and attachment without lies. Obi-Wan drills footwork until balance becomes muscle and muscle becomes grace. On a morning that feels like a memory with sun in it, Obi-Wan opens a box and offers Luke a hilt that carries a war. Your father's, he says. Luke fingers the metal. He doesn't know whether to kneel or stand straighter. He chooses both in turn. He keeps the green on one hip and the blue on the other. He will not choose between past and promise. Not yet. For Leia, Yoda reveals a compact hilt grown from patience and an old crystal. The blade that leaps out wears the same color as the one Luke brought from ice, but it is not the same. Hers is quick, clean, precise as a thought she is not afraid to finish. Time teaches. They become a duet. Luke anticipates. Leia reads. He steps through attacks before they finish happening. She feels intent before it hardens into choice. They build trust like a bridge. One plank, then another. Never rushed, never skipped. A coded message breaks the quiet. Lando Calrissian's face fills a small screen with charm, polished to distraction. Beneath it, worry. Imperial presence, Cloud City, they took Han. Fate doesn't ask. The Falcon rises before the swamp can ask them to stay. They move through vents and service tunnels that smell like hot dust and old breath. Sensors blink and lie. Guards nap and don't wake until it's too late to matter. The freezing chamber flickers with orange light. Vader stands like a statue of anger half-remembered. "So that is why I could not sense you coming," he says when Obi-Wan steps into the ring of steam with two blades at his side. "You brought an echo." Luke ignites blue. Leia ignites green. Vader answers with red. The room becomes a grammar of lines. Vader's style is weight and wisdom learned in pain. Obi-Wan's is patience turned into geometry. The twins bracket. They don't shout. They don't bargain. They do the thing they trained to do. Become two halves of one answer. Vader throws them both with a pulse. Obi-Wan cuts air with his hands and sets them back on their feet without letting the Force break like glass. A crane tears free of its moorings and sails. Obi-Wan deflects it with a grimace that costs breath he cannot afford. Luke's overhead strike meets red and gets parried into sparks. Leia skims low and paints a line across armor that doesn't bleed. "Anakin," Obi-Wan says once, not to win, just to try. The mask tilts a degree. "It's enough to make your heart lie to you. It isn't enough to change a swing." Vader presses. Obi-Wan steps into the space that was meant for Luke. Red flows into him. The blade finds ribs beneath robes. He drops to his knees with a sound he refuses to call a groan. "Master?" Luke says, and the word breaks. Leia feels something lock into place between them. Not rage, not mercy, alignment. They move like one body with two arms, green low, blue high. Vader catches one, then the other, then neither. The crossing cut lands, the giant falls, the room stops moving. Obi-Wan breathes in, shallow sips. He smiles because he chooses to. He touches Leia's cheek with the back of a hand that once held a baby to the light and called him beautiful. "You are light," he says. "Say it until you believe it." He finds Luke's face. "You balanced what I could not." He lets his eyes ask forgiveness for late truth and finds it already given. The breath goes out of him. The body stays. This time, the lesson is simple. Becoming one with the Force is not vanishing. It is arriving somewhere words can't, while leaving behind the proof that you were here. They take what they came for. Han is a gray slab with a friend inside. The city hums. Lando clears a path with promises and favors he will actually repay. Chewbacca carries more than weight. Leia walks beside the cart with a saber still warm in her palm. Luke doesn't look back at the room where he left two men in two different kinds of silence. In a high office on Coruscant, Palpatine listens and smiles without joy. He leans back on a throne that pretends to be a chair. "Good," he murmurs. "Come then." He lifts a hand. Fleets move. Traps open. The heart of the Empire beats faster. He wants them to hear it. He wants them to think they can stop it. The galaxy holds its breath. The names travel first. Luke, Leia. They move faster than ships. World by world, people say them like handles they can grab when the ground moves. The twins don't ask for titles. They ask for maps and volunteers and fuel. Han wakes with a cough that sounds like a joke he doesn't remember telling. Lando brings ships and charm and a list of debts he intends to pay, now that he feels like a man who can. Chewbacca thumps Luke on the shoulder harder than necessary, and holds Leia in an embrace that cracks armor she didn't know she wore. They build with what they have. There is no temple. There is no order that knows itself by a name. There is a cargo bay that becomes a training deck because someone draws a chalk circle and says, "Here." Luke drills stances until his legs learn them, and then forget how to forget them. Leia learns how to breathe in the middle of a negotiation, and in the middle of a fight, and discovers the breath is the same. Mon Mothma brings structure without cruelty. "Paperwork," she says, "is a kind of mercy. It means we are planning to be here tomorrow." They hold a quiet remembrance for the old man who made tomorrow possible, not a pyre. Stones on a hillside. Luke sets two hilts on the rock and leaves them there for as long as it takes to say goodbye without embarrassment. Leia lays a hand on the topmost stone and takes it back when she feels tears gathering. Han clears his throat and says nothing. Chewbacca makes a sound that means respect and patience in a language most people never learn well enough. They do not swear revenge. They swear work. The work takes them to places that forgot the word law meant anything but a boot. On a refinery moon where bribes buy air, Leia stands on a loading platform and turns a crowd into a council. She doesn't promise new sons. She promises auditors and fair rates and the right to leave. The foreman threatens. His voice shakes. Luke flicks a blaster from his hand with a thought so gentle it hurts no one. The foreman looks at his empty fingers and decides he is tired of being brave for the wrong side. On a border world where a garrison believes itself immortal, Han lands with 3 crates and 200 men who became soldiers in the time it took to hear that the Empire no longer chose the shape of their days. Chewbacca leads a repair crew that fixes what they break, and then fixes it again, so it won't break the same way next week. Lando negotiates fuel at a price that leaves both sides thinking they cheated the other. Mon signs papers. The planet exhales. None of it happens without fights. Destroyers change lanes and appear where plans said they wouldn't. An admiral with a jaw that looks carved from a rock rakes a farming world with green fire until barns become shadows. Luke hides fear under calm and walks through blasts that stop just short of killing him because the men firing them do not actually want to. He learns their names. He gives them choices. Some lower rifles, a few don't. The rebellion takes losses. It takes ground. It keeps breathing. The center of everything waits. The heart of the Empire beats under a palace that sold itself a story about order. The twins point there. Not a forest moon, Leia says, standing over a map that pretends to be clean. Not an outpost. The throne. Everyone will see, Luke says. Everyone will have to decide. The plan is so simple, it feels like a trick. They come as workers with crates. Lando knows which forms to sign and which seals no one ever checks. A slicer team turns cameras into mirrors that reflect nothing useful. 3 squads peel off to sink their teeth into communications. 1 squad goes where the power lines knot. 2 squads stand by to keep the sky honest. Luke and Leia walk in wearing drab overalls and the kind of focus that makes anyone watching look away. Royal guards at the inner door don't blink. Their hands flex around staves. Leia lifts a palm. 1 guard's weapon lowers a finger width, then 2. The other stiffens with loyalty that forgot how to be human. Luke eases both into sleep with a suggestion soft as a lullaby. The door opens. The throne room is a lesson in height and shadow. Floor like glass, windows like teeth. At the far end, a man who refuses to admit he is old rests his hands on a chair and smiles as if he invented the word. Skywalkers, he says. At last. They walk. They do not hurry. They do not bow. You killed my world, Leia says. Say it out loud. Palpatine's eyes enjoy their own reflection. I taught the galaxy to listen, he says. The price for silence is always paid by those who speak too late. Luke doesn't answer. He knows bait when he tastes it. He waits for the attack. It comes as red. The blade leaps from a sleeve with a hiss that remembers other rooms, other days. The Emperor strikes with speed that mocks his bones. Luke catches the first cut on blue. Leia circles. Green, low, a step outside reach. Their sabers give the room a heartbeat. Palpatine laughs and becomes method. His wrists flow. His shoulders barely move. He hunts hands. He tests ankles. He stabs at patience until it wants to scream. Lightning spits when the blade doesn't serve. Leia slices it from the air. Luke takes the rest into a pillar that smokes, but doesn't fall. Use what you have, Palpatine murmurs, too pleased with himself to shut up. Hate works, Luke breathes. No. He doesn't drop his saber. He refuses to make goodness theatrical. He keeps the weapon because light is a thing you use, not a thing you pose with. He steps in. The Emperor shifts to cruelty refined into art, meets the overreach with a block that grinds. He holds it, shoulder burning, teeth set, waiting for the beat he trained to hear. Leia takes it. She springs from a broken ledge the room thought was decoration and becomes a line of green coming down at an angle no one sane would choose. Palpatine darts back. He is fast. Not fast enough. Luke presses. The 2 blades land in the same breath from 2 different futures. Red stutters. The scream that leaves the Emperor's mouth sounds like an old engine tearing itself apart. He falls. Lightning crawls across the floor and dies. The throne sits empty and looks suddenly stupid. Silence follows. Not victory. Not yet. The part after noise that lets you hear what you must do next. Leia glances toward the windows. The city outside is a galaxy of lights with no idea which ones are about to go out. We move, she says, before courage remembers it was fear wearing boots. Doors that would have killed to stay shut yesterday open. Officers who never made a choice in their lives begin learning how. Some pick the wrong lesson and fire anyway. Luke parries bolts without cruelty and sends them into floors and walls and a console that deserved it. Leia disarms men and doesn't humiliate them. The royal guards who remain lay staves down and look at the floor because looking at people hurts. Mon Mothma arrives in a ship that shouldn't be allowed to land where it does. She walks through the throne room without touching the chair. She goes to the balcony and looks at a city that survived on momentum and fear. We will not rule, she says. We will serve. Leia joins her. And argue, she adds, as if promise and warning are the same sentence. A lot. Luke stays at the center of the room. The body lies where it fell. He does not cover it. He does not kick it. He does not pretend it matters more than it does. He looks at the guards, at the troopers, at the aides who have forgotten how to speak. It's over, he says. Start building something you aren't ashamed to tell your children about. It turns out shame moves fast. So does relief. So does confusion. The city stumbles into a day without instructions. Beyond Coruscant, news runs on routes it can only find when fear stops closing lanes. Warlords try to scoop up pieces. Systems declare independence at a rate that makes cartographers swear. Some planets cheer and trip over their own new flags. Others call for elections. A few call for help. The Alliance becomes the new Republic by doing more paperwork than anyone thought heroes could stand. The twins do not rebuild what fell. They grow something else. They take a courtyard behind a building that used to host parades and plant a tree. Children chase each other under its shade. A white stone sits beneath it. Obi-Wan Kenobi master friend. Luke visits when the noise is too much. He sits and tells the tree what he couldn't say at the end. Some days he hears an answer and leaves. Some days the wind keeps his secrets. He sets a second stone without fanfare on a morning that tastes like dust and new rain. Anakin Skywalker father, lost. Leia finds him there. She stands for a while and speaks without looking at him. I can't forgive him. Not yet. Maybe not ever, she says. But I am tired of letting him decide my weather. Luke nods. Then we decide it, he says. They watch the city breathe. Clones who survived long enough to wonder who they were outside orders leave rifles on racks and take jobs teaching. Stormtroopers who never learned their own names speak them out loud until the syllables fit. Courts argue. Schools open. Prisons lose their hunger. The crest changes and means less than the habits that begin to change beneath it. Luke teaches. He doesn't call it a school at first. He calls it time. He shows older students how to listen to a crowd without drowning, how to hold anger without drinking it. He keeps 2 sabers on his belt longer than anyone thinks is comfortable. Eventually, the blue spends more time in a case, under glass. He still takes it down on certain nights and walks with it in the garden until the stars look like friends instead of witnesses. Leia moves between chambers, with her saber clipped under a plain cloak and her temper under tight control. She becomes excellent at deciding which argument must be won and which must be allowed to finish losing by itself. She learns to make people trust each other by asking them to work together before they like each other. She doesn't quit when they don't. Han runs ships and relief and bad ideas past Lando, who polishes them until they look like plans. Chewbacca trains mechanics how to fix a hyperdrive with 3 tools and a promise. Mon reads reports and writes laws with sentences that leave less room for cruelty to hide. Yoda returns once. He sits under the skylight and watches a class practice with blunt blades. He smiles, sleeps, and is gone before anyone thinks to make a speech. Not everything softens. Pirates still test lanes. A warlord on the fringe styles himself a sovereign and paints his face with someone else's flag. The unknown regions keep their secrets. The New Republic makes mistakes. It corrects them slower than anyone wants. The twins learn patience without passivity and urgency without panic. They do not pretend the Force is on their side. They work until they feel themselves on it. Years pass. A boy and a girl become the adults no prophecy deserves credit for. They miss the old man and thank him anyway. They argue. They forgive. They laugh at small things because ginormous things were all anyone laughed at for too long. On Tatooine, a crate appears without a sender at a farm that still listens for rain. Inside are parts stamped with codes only one man would have known. Beru twists a coupling and says, "Good." As if that could be an ending. It isn't. It is a habit that keeps people alive. On Coruscant, a training hall rings with the soft clack of low sabers. 2 teenagers circle. Luke lets them score when they earn it. Leia watches from the doorway and remembers a white corridor, a blast door, a boy with a blaster who would not stop firing until she pulled him away. They built something that bends. They did not rebuild what broke. They taught others to do both. What if Obi-Wan didn't die in A New Hope? In this timeline, he lived. A teacher who lit the path and then stepped aside. The man in the mask fell earlier. The master on the throne fell later. And between those falls, the galaxy learned to speak again. Not in shouts, in conversations, in votes, in lessons, in the quiet work of repair. If you enjoyed this alternate path, hit like, subscribe for more Star Wars stories, and may the Force be with you.